Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it is time for the Monday Q&As, so let's get this started. First question. Why is it the body can't use its own fat stores for hormonal production and things like that, especially for obese people? Actually, it can't. Usually when we're talking about minimum fat intakes for people, this is for people who are relatively lean and cutting. I honestly don't believe in minimum fat intakes for people who are obese or people who are bulking. And I know that's going to annoy some people, but there's just no need for it. As long as you know that you're getting your essential fatty acids, if you're in a calorie surplus or you're carrying a lot of body fat, I wouldn't bother setting minimum fat requirements. These become an issue for people who are in large calorie deficits or they're very lean. And that's when things like hormones get disrupted. And in fact, the very process of dieting down too lean or running a very large calorie deficit for too long is really the real factor. It's not the fat issue. And you are right. If a person is eating a large amount of carbs, they're going to get all the fatty acids they need anyways, other than their essential fatty acids in terms of hormone production, because just through things like de novo lipogenesis and stuff like that. So if you're bulking on a high calorie, high carb diet, it's a non-issue. Sorry about that. The cats are in here fighting, so there's some hissing going on. All three of them are in the room with me here. But stop it. Sorry, where was I? But yeah, it's really not an issue. And again, if someone is quite obese, their hormone levels are not going to crash that bad while they're dieting, exactly for that reason. There's plenty of fat there for these purposes. Your only real concerns come down to getting your fat-soluble vitamins and your essential fatty acids. It's not really a hormone issue for people other than an extreme dieting situation. All right, next question. Does anybody actually come off after long-term cruising, and how much does their life suck? I did answer this question with myself, and I'll get into that in a bit. And he asked me, how bad were those 4 months? It sounds awful, but still better response than I expected. Now, when he means long-term blasting or cruising or whatever he's talking about, obviously anabolic steroids. Now, for me, what I had told him is that I was on for about 3.5, maybe 4 years nonstop. That's why you guys see, when you find old pictures of me, there's a wide variety of pictures. There's actually pictures out there of me that are natty that people have put up as me supposedly on gear. I was actually natty in those, lifetime natty still. And then that's why some of the pictures I'm 220, other pictures I'm 250 pounds, and you look around, is because I was on gear for almost 4 years straight. Obviously, I made gain. I changed a lot during that 4 years back then. But for me, after like 3.5 years of not cycling off, when I went off, even messing with PCT, it took me about 4 months to stabilize my hormones. And yeah, it was pretty bad. I would say after that 4 months, I was good. I was actually back in the high normal test range. I had blood work. I had good medical insurance at the time, so the blood work was not an issue. But I would say I went a whole month with no sex drive. I could have sex. I didn't want sex. So, I mean, I still had sex because my partner at the time, but she had to initiate it. I just really wasn't interested. I got depressed a lot for about 3 to 4 months there. I was a lot moodier and irritable. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, it's definitely, if you've been cruising a long time on gear, it's pretty rough coming off. I mean, you're going to lose your sex drive. You're going to get depressed. I mean, it sucks. So again, that's why I tell people, if you go on, don't come off unless you have a really good reason. It should be a lifetime commitment. And I'll cover it at some other point. I'll cover why I came off. I came off for reasons because I just didn't care about my gains anymore. I was pursuing other things. I didn't care about trying to maintain a 450-pound bench press. I didn't care if it dropped to 375. I just didn't care. I was training for health and for stress relief at that point after work. I wasn't ever considering competing in anything again, and it was just, I was lifting very casually. So yeah, my bench went down to 400 pounds, my squat went down to 550, but I didn't really care. My workouts were like 30 minutes long. All right, next question. If vegetables are so good for us, why don't they taste better than chocolate? Well, this is really an evolutionary question. Our bodies, our taste, our metabolism, everything about us is designed to survive famines and ice ages. People forget that they've estimated that they think only about 3,000 humans survived the last glacial period. We don't really know what our population was going into that glacial period. There might have been 10 million, there might have been 3 billion people on Earth. We actually do not know. But we suspect it was something like 3,000 to 5,000 people survived. Only people who had certain traits for gaining fat easily and sustaining body fat and all of these things really survived that ice age. Well, we're still in an ice age with that glacial period. And accordingly, we tend to crave foods that will get us as fat as possible, and or have signs of high caloric density. And the three things that we crave in terms of taste are fat, sweet, so sugary, and salty, because those are always associated with high caloric density, and particularly salty foods stimulate appetites that make you eat more. And accordingly, vegetables don't meet any of those things. There wasn't a problem with us getting enough vegetables, because oftentimes all throughout history, that's all we had to eat for periods of time was just vegetables. Even during Paleolithic times, there's a myth there that most humans at any point in history lived on all meat diets, other than like the Eskimos and Inuits, because the meat wasn't always there. We oftentimes went a week without meat, even when we were pretty much a hunter-gatherer species in most regions, just because you could only get so much meat. You could only hunt and fish so much sometimes, so they had to live on the vegetables. So it was just, we had to eat it anyways. It's all we had. There's no need to necessarily crave it. We crave those foods that will give us a high caloric intake. So that really kind of answers the question. That's why we crave salty, fatty, and sweet. And chocolate, of course, is fatty and sweet. So of course, that hits 2 out of our 3 requirements of what we actually crave. So of course it tastes fantastic to us. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.